Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining our HBCU Know Your Rights webinar brought to you by Black Voters Matter and the NAACP Youth and College Division. My name is Alethea Bonello. I am one of our national field co-directors here at BVM, and we're excited that we're able to bring to you several students from across the country to talk about this important issue about how to stay safe, know what to do when you are approached by law enforcement, or if outside agitators come on your campus, what you can do. So we're excited to have all of you here. And if you could, why don't you go ahead and let us know where you're coming from in the comments, rep your HBCU PWI. We are so glad to have each and every one of you here. And then go ahead and begin shortly. All right, the Fort Valley State University. Thank you for being here with us. As you can see, we are joined by a dynamic group of individuals with us tonight, and we're going to be talking about not only how people are feeling, educating you and equipping you on what you can do, but also grounding you with wellness techniques. And so we're excited to have with us several members of the NAACP Youth and College Division, our BVM's Take the Field students, as well as our Black Youth Renaissance students as well on the call with us. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Marie to introduce our students and start us off with our first segment. As Erica Baudu would say, ladies, how you doing? Brothers, how you feeling? Let's find out what's going on several different campuses of our HBCUs. Marie, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Marie Radigan. I am one of the national field organizers for the NAACP Youth and College Division. It is a pleasure to be here with you all as a first generation student, as a proud HBCU graduate from the illustrious Florida Agricultural Mechanical University. With us tonight, we have a variety of students from different HBCUs. I know Morgan State is in the building. I know Alabama State's in the building. I know Tuskegee is in the building. I know that there are so many HBCUs here representing tonight. Before I kick it off, I would like for our panelists, if you can, go through your brief bios, tell us who you are, where you're representing before we jump into the nitty-gritty of what has been going on your HBCU campus. And I will start with the lovely Morgan State.
I was hoping you would say that. Good evening. I hope you are doing well. Hi, my name is Sierra Pastena. I am a junior here at Morgan State University. I currently serve as president for Morgan State's unit of the NAACP. Thank y'all so much.
And then we can just continue to go around. So Eldrick, kick us off representing Alabama State, and then you can just pass it off.
Greetings, everyone. I am Eldrick Coleman, a senior biology major at Alabama State University, and I currently serve as the Alabama Youth and College Division president of the NAACP.
Perfect. I have Madam President from Florida A&M University, if you can come off mute as well.
Hi guys. I'm actually in a general body meeting right now with my chapter. But greetings, I am Ashley Bigby, a fourth year journalism student hailing from Metro Atlanta, and I currently serve as the president for the FAMU chapter of NAACP.
Thank you, Ashley. Byron Gadsden, if you can also come off mute, and you all just come off mute, introduce yourselves.
How you doing? My name is Baron Gadsden. I am a second-year junior at the illustrious Clark Atlanta University, hailing all the way from the city of Brotherhood, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I serve as our chapter president here on campus.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Daniel will kick it off to you as well.
Thank you. I am a sophomore mechanical engineer major here at Tuskegee University. And do I need a fun fact or?
No, you don't have to do the fun fact tonight, but thank you, Daniel. All right, so let's jump right in. So we know that there has been a lot going on at our HBCUs. Some of us recently celebrated homecoming. We know that there were some agitators that was allegedly supposed to be coming on our campus since the death of an individual. Wanting to get like what's been going on your campuses. Have you been affected? Has any of these individuals came on your campus? So this is free range, of course. We spoke about it before, so just speak organically about what's going on and how you all have been impacted.
Yeah, I didn't get to speak. I don't know, you probably just skipped over me, but
My apologies. That wasn't my
yeah.
intentions.
Nah, my name is Jacob, at North Carolina Central University. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, and I represent the Student Panthers, which is a Black radical organization based off of the campus at North Carolina Central University. But yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us as well. And anybody can feel free to kick it off with the recent question.
And Marie, actually, Dayton. I'm sorry, Ashley.
No, it's
Dayton
okay.
also. Please introduce yourself, Dayton.
Hi, everyone. I am Dayton Gates, a junior psychology major from the Fort Valley State University. I am a member of our Political Science Student Association, and I'm also a Black Voters Matter ambassador on campus.
Awesome.
Back to you,
So
Ashley.
I'll start first with a little bit of what's been going on our campus slash state. So in the state of Florida, a legislator tries to pass or start writing a bill that has all Florida public universities change a street name to said individual that had passed away in September. The thing is on that, people from both sides, so both Democratic and Republican, a lot of people aren't really feeling that. Granted, we as in Florida A&M University is the only public HBCU. So for us to have a street named after an individual who does not really care about us and our thinking, a lot of students were shocked with that, for one. Another thing is too, we just recently celebrated homecoming this past weekend. And this organization called Blexit was supposed to come on campus. Luckily, they didn't. But we had strategized with not only our like parent branch, was the Tallahassee chapter, but also the state like NAACP executive as well, to figure out how to strategize in case they were to come to campus, how to navigate through instances like that. Also getting in talks with our SGA president and safety, like police officers and stuff. So luckily we haven't had any issues yet, but it's just making sure students remain informed and other things such as that nature.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next. We haven't really had any sort of, I guess, initial impacts on our campus from old dude dying or whatever. But the Blexit, whatever that thing is supposed to be, they're supposed to be on our campus on Thursday. Obviously, like generally, like the students just like aren't vibing with their presence. And I don't see it going well, just understanding like how the student body reacts to that kind of political thought, as well as like there being a current like Black radical organization on campus. We're not really going to like let that kind of thing be on our campus like uncontested. with the main strategy just being disrupting, and not really engaging with like the sort of like nonsensical, like incoherent, like political positions that these people have. But yeah, that's really about it for real. Oh, I guess yeah, I mean the student body as of recently has had like a weird relationship with police after the Central Police assaulted like the students who were protesting housing conditions last May or March, can't remember. But ever since then, like the tensions between like the Central Police and the students have not been like too good, and I'd be curious to see how the administration reacts to Blexit supposedly coming on campus on Thursday versus how they reacted to like students protesting like housing on their campus. But yeah.
Thank you for uplifting that. That definitely sounds like there's a lot going on, and some organizing that definitely can happen on campus. Daniel, I seen your hand, and then Soraya.
Yeah. So I know for my campus, there isn't too much we haven't really seen any like anybody coming on our campus and doing anything crazy. I would say the biggest thing for us is more so just when we do have meetings talking about how to approach situations when people do come on campus and just ignoring them and being peaceful. If anything, I've seen things posted in the HBCU coalition chat in Instagram and people just talking over there about how to deal with things of that matter. But nothing really too personal on my campus going on in terms of that. So I believe that's a good thing. Uh,
Thank you. You all feel free to come off mute. I know, Soraya, you had your hand up, but
Yes.
let's do it organically.
Thank you so much. I was so ready to go. So personally on my campus, I go to Morgan State in Baltimore again. We have in general, there's been a lot of uncertainty with even continuing your college education with college affordability and safety. Being in Baltimore, we're so close to DC, so we're feeling the effects of the administration now more than ever. I know about a month ago, our governor, Westmore, he invited Trump to come to Baltimore and see for himself how safe we were as a community. So because of things like this, we've been posting information about safety and trying to reach as much students as we can with a plan if someone does come on our campus. Other than that, we did have two bomb threats, but they were quickly investigated by the Morgan State Police and they were found to not have any substance to them. But things of that nature, I feel like it is also dangerous with the amount of false threats that they are. I don't want students to start underestimating these threats because one day, who knows what could happen if those threats could have some seriousness towards them. So yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty and unsafety, and we're really scared on our campus personally.
Thank you. Also, I'm not able to see everyone, so if your hand is up, once again, please just feel free to jump in. If I don't call your name, it's probably because I cannot see whose hand is up.
Well, at Alabama State, well, I speak for the state of Alabama more so. We're just teaching and training everyone to kind of just ignore the things that these extremist groups are doing. As you all may know, on October the 3rd, we had one of those groups, something about a Educate to Liberate group that came on campus and tried to have a rally on our campus. There was no incidents reported because students chose not to engage. That's kind of what we are teaching them, because if you don't engage with them, you can't really, they won't get a reaction out of you. That's really what they want. They just want a reaction. So we're trying to teach them not to react. Secondly, we have had a few bomb threats in the state of Alabama at our HBCUs. So we're trying to make sure that all students are being vigilant, make sure that they're watching out for anything that's crazy, looking on campus, anybody who, might be coming to cause confusion. We try to make sure that everyone knows that to call law enforcement or get help and just make sure that they are advocating for what is going on, because we cannot be quiet about the things that are happening. Given the fact that we live, I feel like, in one of the worst states when it comes to laws favoring us and helping us out. Our police is here have been granted immunity. So we have to be very careful with what we do and how we react to these people and these type of things. So that's kind of what we're doing here. We're just kind of trying to ignore the confusion, because they are coming, and they are coming on our campuses to try to get us to react.
Thank you, Eldrick.
I can hop in next. From a Clark Atlanta standpoint and Georgia State as well. From Clark Atlanta University, we had many threats. We had about 3 hoax. Here we have the AUC, which is us, Morehouse, Spelman, and Morris Brown. We had a bomb threat in the library that we share. We had a man with a gun on the promenade. We've been about 3 or 4 different lockdowns. So we've been through some things, and I think as a school, we've done a good job of trying to keep the morale up. This week is homecoming, so everyone's excited this week. But I think we've done a very good job of trying to be there for each other. I think for a minute there was some friction between the students and the public safety department. I think what was not very taken into account is the mental health aspect that this takes on us as students. A lot of times, although we are a police state and getting the extra help on campus from Atlanta Police and the Georgia State Police, it is a help, but it is also very traumatizing to see. From being a student looking out my window and seeing a fully armed SWAT team, it does not exactly alleviate my fears. It does not make me feel completely safe. A lot of students I know personally have been victims of police brutality or have seen it firsthand. So I think the main thing right now we're trying to figure out is how to keep each other mentally safe together and how we can kind of bridge that gap between public safety. I think they were very, as long as we have officers here, you guys are fine, you guys will feel great. And a lot of us were very taken aback because we don't want to walk to class while seeing this. We don't want to walk to class while having to wait for the bomb dog sniffer to finish sniffing the promenade before we can walk past you. We don't want to wait for you to clear the library before we can go in and study. So I think a lot of times we're just waiting on how we can be there for each other to mentally support, because I think that was not taken into account a lot of times in these situations. But I will say it's homecoming week and we are turning it around. We're getting together. I know the festivities have begun tonight. It's our Royal Court coronation. So I think we're going to be okay in this.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Hi, I wanted to speak from the Fort Valley standpoint. I was also going to touch base on the threats that happened in Atlanta. And although that we're not directly in Atlanta, we're like an hour, 2 hours away from it. So our campus was definitely scared for our fellow Black students across the state. And I think you could definitely feel, because we had our homecoming at the very beginning of October. So having the threats and then also just seeing the death of Trey Reed in Mississippi, it kind of scared our campus to having these big events and feeling like we kind of need to hide our safe spaces. But thankfully, Fort Valley, we have came together with our police department. So any big events the school throws or like outside promoters, they have to file paperwork through our police department to make sure there's enough officers there to keep our students safe.
Thank you for sharing. So I know that we went through what we've been seeing, but also before passing it back over to Alethea, wanting to lighten up the mood just a tad bit. I heard that Ms. Gates said that homecoming passed. If you attended homecoming, what was the spirit? What did Black joy look like and mean to you on your campuses, as well as did you win your homecoming game?
Okay, I guess I'll go. Ignore. Oh
Miss,
y'all.
let
I'm on
Miss
an
Gates.
HBCU coalition chat. Everybody say hi. So yes, this is my lovely GBM in E committee. But homecoming actually went very well. We won our game, so that was exciting. Me and my line sisters, we won the step show too, so that was great. And yeah, I feel like a lot of that stuff revitalized the energy in our campus, and yeah.
Ms. Gates, take it away. Thank you for updating us, Ashley. What happened, Ms. Gates? What was it looking like over there?
I'm not gonna lie, our football team did not win, but we still had a huge turnout. Our tailgate, there was, I think they said maybe 40,000 people that was on campus that day. We had a huge turnout. The energy was there. I think that our Black students and our Black community, we felt safe with one another. And any outside people, they definitely were supportive and respectful of our campus.
Love that. Anybody else jump in?
Yeah,
I would
so
love.
at Tuskegee University, it was a lot of people, like yeah, 40,000 in attendance. I was trying to get through everybody. It was really tight, it was really packed, but we didn't win our game, unfortunately, but I mean everybody, we don't go there for the game. We go there for the ball and parlay, the little fight song and the band. So we love our marching Crimson Pipers. But yeah, it was really fun, very lively, everybody having fun and everything.
That's good. Anybody else?
Yes, unfortunately, I slept through my game, but we did win our game. I still woke up for the tailgate, but unfortunately, I didn't make it to the game. But the tailgate was amazing. There was a random future Morgan State Bear. A little baby ran up to me, and I felt so at home on my campus. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Our campus was packed. And I had so many different plates of food, chicken over here, hot dogs over here. It was great. 10 out of 10.
Love that. Anybody else want to add in?
Yes,
Um,
homecoming. Oh, well, you can go.
I'm sorry. I will say for Clark, this week is our homecoming, but I will shout out my AUC siblings. 2 weeks ago, Morris Brown had their homecoming, and this was kind of like their coming back out, coming alive, and it was great. I had the best turkey wings of my life. So Morris Brown, 10 out of 10, and then I had Spelman and Morehouse last week, and had the all access pass. I was at everybody's tent for the tailgate. I went to every single activity from their coronation to the step show. Spelman, they did an amazing job. I loved the concert too. So I'm just waiting for Clark Atlanta this year. Our concert's tomorrow night.
Love that. Celebrating with you. And then Eldrick, I seen that you came off mute. And then if anybody else want to jump in, feel free to before I pass it back over to Alethea.
Yes, Alabama State had an amazing homecoming. It was so amazing to the fact that I didn't even make it into the game. I stayed out at the tailgate the whole time. I had some amazing fried fish. And yes, my chapter won the step show as well. So that was pretty exciting. And of course, we won our game. We beat Bethune-Cookman, like we've been beating everyone else. And yes, homecoming in Montgomery was amazing at Alabama State.
Love that. Love that. Anybody else wanted to add? If not, I'll pass it back over to Alethea.
So I had the pleasure to attend Tennessee State University's homecoming this past weekend, where we had the Blackest bus in America. The BVM bus was in the parade, so we were able to interact with folk, feel that Black love, that Black joy and celebration, along with being able to provide voter information to our students there and have voter engagement and dorm storming as well. So yes, homecoming is definitely a cornerstone of what we do in the fall. And just a quick story. My family is Jamaican, and so my first cousin came over from England one year and went to the FAMU Bethune-Cookman game during Thanksgiving weekend. He had never seen a Black band perform. He didn't know what to do with himself during halftime. So
Wow.
all of that is so important to our, not only our culture, but culture worldwide. So yes, we need all of that, all of that. Put it in the chat, y'all. Who else went to homecoming? We want to hear from our attendees as well. We want this to be a dynamic and powerful conversation, and we are going to continue on with our next segment. Thank you to all the students that were able to share with us. And if you have anything else to share, put it in the chat. Let's keep the conversation going. Any questions or comments, any observation that you have? What are your concerns on your campuses currently now, not only just in September and all that you've gone through, but we want to know what's going on so we can go ahead and understand better. But we're going to move on to our second segment of this evening, where we're going to be talking about Know Your Rights. And we're so glad to have with us Raleigh Hayes of Legal Defense Fund. Raleigh serves as a community organizer at LDF, and prior to joining LDF, he was a housing paralegal and development associate at the Public Justice Center in Baltimore, Maryland. As a young person raised in the heart of Baltimore City, Raleigh began his journey of combating social injustice in 2007 when he served as a young organizer and math tutor with the Baltimore Algebra Project. In addition, in 2015, in response to the police in custody death of Freddie Gray, an unarmed Black man, Hayes co-founded Organizing Black, a grassroots membership-led organization dedicated to fighting for the liberation of all Black people. So we are glad to have you here with us. Good evening, Raleigh.
Good evening, everyone. First off, I have to say I'm really sorry I missed Morgan's homecoming. I was not in town because the work means that we don't sleep and we don't always get to be where we want to be at all times. So, you know, it's a citywide event. I am not a Morgan Bear, but half of my family is, so, you know. And I'm sorry also that I didn't get a chance to prepare a PowerPoint presentation for you guys. I know that you are all across the country at different colleges, and so it makes it a little difficult to be very specific about what rights exist per state. And then the last little disclaimer I have to say is that while I work for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, it is not a part of the NAACP member organization. It is the law firm that separated in 1940. And also, I am not an attorney. So this is not legal advice. This is general best practices is the way we can frame this conversation today, right? I cannot give you legal advice. I can point you to the ACLU in your respective state. I can even probably connect you with an attorney, but I am not your attorney. I am not giving you legal advice. I would like to keep my job. All right. So I just want to touch on first when we're talking about protests. A lot of you guys are students, and there is a big difference in protests when we are on college campuses or we are in the street, right? College campuses are considered private property, even if you consider them to be state funded or publicly funded. They are private property and they can have their own rules. What that means is that your rights as an individual are in some ways reduced. These institutions can set their own rules about what they consider disruption, trespassing, and what is allowed. And that means that any protest or First Amendment speech is regulated and has to receive approval from the administration, what is considered the owners of the property. In reference to, you know, hearing about Turning Point and outsiders on campus, I think it is also really important to know that if they are on campus, they have probably, you know, sought approval and they have that official protection, right? And so it is important when you think about engaging, what does that look like to engage with you know, considered some type of official event and be disruptive, and what that can mean for your academic career or, you know, police intervention in that moment. That is to not say that you cannot have some type of, you know, public and approved counter protests. If that is your interest, I would name that, you know, in this moment in time, I would not encourage people to escalate, but that is not to say that you don't have the right to, you know, choose to respond how y'all deem fit on your campuses. The other thing to name is that if you are doing some type of counter protest and it is approved, police must treat you guys equally. Right? Like everybody has First Amendment rights and they must be treated equally. I would also name that having the right to do something doesn't mean that it will be respected or that the police will honor those things. And so while it is a right, it is not a shield. It won't prevent those things from happening. So what is an approved protest? An approved protest on a campus would be one that is approved by whatever the administration has set for what they typically call First Amendment activities or free speech activities. In outside of campus, approved protests are typically things that are permitted, but that if you are in a public space like a typical street or a park and you are not disrupting people's safety or flow of traffic or something of that nature, again, depending on where you're at, most times police will allow that protest to continue with or without a permit. But the safest method of ensuring individual safety. And if you're organizing a protest, it's not just about what you're personally comfortable with. It's about what other people who might show up are also comfortable with, right? Like taking that responsibility of a leader is to get a permit, particularly naming that we live in a time where governments, particularly federal government and authority, is targeting individuals, right? We have ICE, we have other bodies showing up to these protests. And so as someone who, as you heard from my bio, was in the streets in 2015 and has been in the streets in every major uprising in my personal capacity, I think that this time is different, right? We have to think about people's safety differently. You don't know someone's immigration status by looking at them. Neither does ICE, and for that matter, it doesn't seem they care, right? So I just want to level set also on those things. Just because we have rights doesn't mean they're going to be respected in this moment in time. And so we have to be just twice as careful, right? Like I'm sure all of us have heard growing up, we have to be twice as good. We got to be twice as careful right now. And I'll pause here just for any other questions because I can't like look at the chat at the same time all the time. So if there's any other questions, please drop them in the chat and I will try to address them as I am going through things. And I'll touch on a few other important rights and practices.
We don't have any in the chat so far, so you can go ahead.
All right. So there is no real legal distinction as far as free speech is concerned that I know of. I would again check with an attorney. But as far as I understand, as far as free speech is concerned, they are private properties, and they have their own rules about what behavior is allowed, right? Like as a student, you essentially enter into an agreement to attend this place, right? And you agree to abide by whatever rules are in that student code of conduct that you probably didn't read. You agreed to that. And so they can hold you to that, whether or not you read it or not. And they can change it. So just, familiarize yourself with the rules. Again, just because the rules are there doesn't mean they're going to follow them, but they are there for you to know. Another thing to name is that if you have the right to record anything that is in public view in your space, right? Like you can hold up your phone and record. That is not to say that will not aggravate or escalate situations. And so you should be careful when recording or like viewing to show moral support. How you do so and to comply with any orders you may receive in that moment from a law enforcement official. The reason for that is because if you do not, you can then be considered a part of that protest or disobeying a lawful order and whatnot. And then you get swept up into something you were just trying to witness and record, possibly for someone else's safety. And a really great organization that does a lot of like protest watching training is the National Lawyers Guild. They typically have chapters everywhere. You can also connect with them, particularly if being in the protest isn't for you, but you want to find a way to support. That is a great way to plug in, naming again that all of these things are processes. That does not mean that the particular officer that is there that day is going to respect it, but it is a process, a practice that is typically respected. Just to go back to the permit piece, you don't actually need a permit. It is just another level of protection to march the streets or on sidewalks, as long as you don't obstruct car or pedestrian traffic, right? If you do that and you don't have a permit, police can ask you to remove yourself, and then refusing to do so could be considered an escalation. So that is a really legal question. I see the question is just to say, I understand a code of conduct exists and academic consequences can be levied against students, but do they supersede constitutional rights? The answer is yes and no in the long and short. And I'm, again, not an attorney. And it really depends on your particular state. But ultimately, questions of that, depending on the incident, will be decided in a court after whatever has happened has occurred, right? And so I advise folks to think about the legal system as something that is reactionary. It typically responds to things. It very rarely shows up as a preventative measure, right? And so when we invoke things like constitutional rights, First Amendment rights, and all of those things, we have seen protesters. I've been some of the protesters where that doesn't matter in the moment, right? Because the police are willing to risk the consequences of that thing. That could be them losing a job, a suspension, but to them it's worth it. And so just flagging those things. But a very specific situation, you should consult with an attorney, particularly if you're planning some type of First Amendment protected activity that I did not give you advice to do. Another thing I want to touch on is what if you're stopped by the police, right, while you're at a protest? First thing that's really important is stay calm. You should record if possible, but make sure to keep your hands visible, right? So like if you're gonna grab your phone out of your pocket, you should probably announce that before you go to do so. Be like, can I grab my phone out of my pocket? It is not about being submissive or being less of anybody. It is about survival, right? And when we give these recommendations to folks, we want them to make it to whatever the next thing they're trying to do. And I just want to name that. You don't have to resist. You don't have to argue. Don't obstruct. Even if you believe your rights are being violated, it's probably true. That does not mean that you then go off and be like, I'm going to cuss everybody out, right? Like, again, your goal is to survive. If you're under arrest, you have the right to ask why. You have the right to ask if you're being detained. If you are not being detained, you should remove yourself, right, as fast as possible. If you are being detained, you can, continue talking. You can remain silent. You can ask for an attorney. I would highly advise against signing anything without a lawyer, because you have no idea what you could be signing. The police are not obligated to tell you the truth. So also naming that. They could say you're signing this thing that's going to let you go. It could be a confession for all you know. That's not to say that I don't believe you guys are highly intelligent individuals. I am saying these things because these things have happened to people. You have the right to make a phone call. And so it's really important also in this day and age, if you know you're going to be near a protest, to have whatever the protest hotline is, or have a trusted family member number written on you or memorized. I know we all love our phones. You got to memorize some numbers or write it on. It's just completely necessary. I still know the jail support number for Baltimore in my heart, and when they change it, they send me a text so I can memorize that. You don't have to consent to a search of yourself or your belongings if you are not under arrest. If you are detained, they can search your belongings because at that point they believe they have some type of reasonable suspicion to detain you or you committed something. The police may pat down your clothing if they suspect you have a weapon and may search you again after arrest. And this is really, I think, critical for folks on college campuses where threats have been, right? Like if they think they have the pretext of them thinking you have a weapon, and it could be as simple as they saw a bulge in your pocket, right? It could be a phone, it could be a speaker, whatever, a portable charger, right? Like that is enough pretext to allow them to search you. You don't have to be doing it. Right. And that's, again, not to scare folks, but just to be aware and like how they can perceive you even when you just living your life. What's really important to name is that police officers may not confiscate or demand to view anything on your phone, right? Like photos, videos, any of those things. Essentially, I see the question, so basically anything, yes. It's about not probable cause, but probable suspicion, essentially, right? Like if they have suspicion, they can escalate the situation. They then have to prove that suspicion, but that doesn't mean that you aren't inconvenienced, right, when that happens. So again, police don't actually have the right to go through your phone or anything without a warrant. Normally they delete anything. That is not to say that that might not happen. And so there are groups like the ACLU and others that have apps that allow you to record stuff and it uploads it to a cloud or somewhere else secure. So that way you will have, a copy of that footage if necessary. and you should consider looking into those. If you've gone through some of these situations and you believe something has happened and your rights have been violated, or you think so, first thing you should do immediately after the incident is write down, set up your phone, record yourself talking about it. Try to record or write down all the details of that moment that you can remember. That is the most important thing, from badge names, numbers, patrol car numbers, agency, time, location. All those things are critical pieces of data that if you get an attorney, they can use to try to, pull information from the police or what they do during discovery. If you're injured, make sure you take photos, you go to the hospital, you document. And then theoretically, you will be able to have someone assist you file some type of, complaint or lawsuit. That is mostly everything. The other, on like being at the protest, the other things I want to talk about is what we share on social media. And that'll be, I think, the last piece, is that we're in a day and age of AI that has the ability to not only change videos, but scrape them for identifying information, be that faces, tattoos, you name it. But also it can manipulate things and make what, as we all call fake news. We've all seen like Sora, ChatGPT, and all the different things that have edited things on social media. It's important when you're either connected to a protest, planning to attend a protest, that you consider what information you're putting out there. If it is marked as secure and only for people that are attending, it should not be shared publicly. I see your hand. I'll get to it in 1 second. I just want to finish my thought. If you're there, you should think about not posting things that have people's faces in it, right? Like if you take your own video for your own reasons, we are in a day and age that that stuff shouldn't be on social media, because your school itself could be creating a database of people who attend protests, right? Or the police department. Lots of organizations have secret databases. We've seen it in New York with the gang database that LDF is working on. We've seen it in other cities and states. And they don't talk about it, but they have. Fannin? Or Fanon?
Yeah, so as far as yeah, it's Fanon, like France Fanon. But so as far as like the social media aspect, besides obviously like being identified as being someone who's attending a protest, um do you think that like the school or like the local police agencies can use that information to come after you, like person? Obviously, like the school can, like if you're at a protest and they deem it as some like vague violation of a code of conduct. But as far as like from a legal standpoint, like can students be targeted from just being at a protest?
So again, not an attorney, but what we've seen in New York with the gang database I mentioned, literally people were added to the database for wearing a color. So you wore the color red or black, and now you're a part of a gang. And I can drop a link in the chat of like when it was recently, I think it was on one of the late night shows. But essentially that is what a lot of police departments do, right? Like they form these lists of criteria and they don't tell anyone, right, of what they consider. And so it's like, oh, now you're a gang member. It's like, or you're a part of this anti-terrorism group, right? We're seeing the federal government and Congress naming hundreds of nonprofits, right, as domestic terrorists. And so security in this moment in time, I think, is really critical because it's not about truth. It's about access to information, right? Like they will make up their own truth. And so how do we prevent that from happening is not giving them access to be able to do those things, right? Like there was a couple of young men, kids really, in Chicago that made a video actually being in support of the government, right? The government took that and said that they said that they had put a hit out on ICE agents for like $50,000. That was not what the video said, right? And so I just caution around giving them access to data that they can manipulate. Unlike the UK, we don't have rights to our data. And so it's just really important to think about that. Everything from what you put on TikTok to IG, right? Like these companies aren't owned by people that are friends of ours. They are owned by his friends. And I say him because this is a C3 conversation for me. So
And us, so we appreciate that. A couple of things to touch on that you mentioned, Raleigh, that in terms of safety, not just protests, but in your everyday life, your generation is one that has grown up with being a public persona and posting everything. But in terms of safety, you know, every photo taken does not have to be posted on the social media. In terms of, a lot of times we get excited, oh, we're about to go out, we're going to be at this place, or you tag the location. All those things need to give pause and really think about, particularly when you're engaging in protests. We just had we organized a group over 300 people and 100 students to go to DC to hear the SCOTUS hearing, oral argument on Louisiana versus Calais in terms of the Voting Rights Act. And so we had to instruct folk, don't post anything that you're on the bus, don't post the bus. These are safety things. Now, as you are moving in your private space, yes, ladies and gentlemen, do post in terms of Uber, making sure you do know that license plate. If you're going on a date in a personal space, go ahead and take a photograph of that license plate and share it with someone so someone knows where you are at all times. And when you are engaging in protests, when you are engaging in these things, making sure that you, one, don't go alone, and two, someone knows that you've left your home destination, your home base, where you're going, that you go ahead and check in, that you've arrived. And even at my age and stage as a Gen Xer, I do the same thing. I have 3 people that I constantly check in as I'm flying to a different city, as I'm going someplace, as I'm speaking somewhere, that they are aware of where I am and that I've reached safely home. So we really have to be cautious in our thinking. And yes, we are in a very open public society, that things are being recorded that you don't even know, and that your face with AI's assistance can be recognized and categorized somewhere in someone's database. And so being critical about that.
And I would even add in, it's not always, law enforcement actors or schools, right? Like I think about particularly those who have homecomings coming up, and you might have decided this is a perfect time to recruit folks to my organization, right? And then, y'all regularly, you and your e-board go out somewhere after your meeting, and y'all always post that, right? Like that is actually a security risk when you think about outsiders being on your campus and targeting your campus, right? Like they could look like us, they could not look like us, right? But knowing where you're at and posting your routines is an easy way to allow vulnerabilities and folks to target people that are just trying to live their lives and you think nothing of it, right? It could, or, on the opposite end, it could be a protest. And then you post like, oh yeah, we're all hanging out right after. But, the government knew that you had a protest meeting like 2 hours before, right? Like, so all of these things are possible. And I just want folks to be aware and really just be a little bit more thoughtful about when you share, right? Like one of the tips I do for social media is everything has a 24 to 48 hour lag time before I post it, right? Like I am never where whatever you see on social media, I ain't there. I've been long gone, right?
That's
Like
good.
it doesn't matter if I'm in a different city, different state. And particularly when you're thinking about being in situations like where you're with other civil rights groups. Maybe not share the travel time, right? Maybe not share that we're already on the bus. Maybe again, those things can be shared, but a little bit later, right? We don't want to discourage folks participating, but we do want to protect people. And I saw Fanon asked, what is C3? And so nonprofits in the US are organized in 2 distinct categories, mostly what we call C3 and C4. C3 are essentially nonpartisan and they can do all the social justice and community work. C4 are partisan and they can endorse typically issues and candidates. And that's how we determine that and like what you can spend money on. The IRS forbids C3 organizations from getting too nuanced in endorsing candidates.
Yeah. So as you said, it's an IRS designation 501(c)(3). And so you'll see that if you look up the IRS code and they'll delineate what those mean. So yeah.
So like
So when we
schools, hospitals, churches are somewhere in the C 501 C code. A lot of them are C3, C5, somewhere in that range. And it's just I'm a nerd out for 1 second. What's really interesting is the mega churches and the way in which the right is trying to attack nonprofits and the left is trying to target their churches so that they'll leave us alone. Just something to look into.
Excellent point. Great. Thank you so much. Now we're going to transition to our final segment, but I want to make sure y'all come on. This is a conversation for you. So if you have any questions or concerns, somebody else hit me up and said, man, I need Raleigh to be talking about, talk to my group. So we thank you for the information that you've shared, and we'll talk a little bit afterwards. Mr. Hayes, we can send out to all of our attendees. So if you have a presentation, if you have additional information, ACLU has a one-pager called Know Your Rights, and it's a foldable card that you can keep. And we also encourage folks who do know immigrants, because when I went on different campuses this past month, there were people, I met people from Africa, from different countries in Africa, Senegal and Uganda. You know, we have people, of course, from Jamaica and the Caribbean. So we do have immigrant students on campus, we call them foreign students on campus as well. And so if they get caught up, it's important that they create a plan of providing contact information in case of emergency, in case they get arrested or detained, who you, their friend, needs to go ahead and reach out to inform their family members, and if they even have a legal representation already lined up. So those things are really important. As we said, these are different days and times. Many of the students panelists talked about security is an issue. And so we don't get scared, we become strategic and we come up with a plan that is necessary, that we have multiple scenarios. We hope that we never have to engage in them, but if we do, we are ready, and that we've communicated this plan to other individuals as well. So thank you so much. We really appreciate the information, and wanted to just give everyone a pause. Again, looking in the chat if there are any questions or comments. Raleigh has also placed his contact information if you want to reach out to him further. So we thank you for that as well. Any other comments or questions, y'all? All right, I see something in the Q&A. So there's a question. Thank you. Is there any benefit to not giving name or ID when requested by police? I've seen videos of people refusing and claiming some sort of legal justification for it, but if it is permissible in certain cases, what benefits would this course of action actually confer?
So I can have a much more in-depth conversation about this when I'm not on the clock as someone who does protest work. But I will say, from a safety point of view and a security point of view, it's actually really important that you do identify yourself, because people can't find you, right? Like if there is jail support or individuals looking for you, if you are misnamed in their system, you can't be found. Now, is there some tactical reasons why that could be possible? Possibly. But like I said, I am not authorized to talk about them in this moment. But from a safety point of view, you open yourself up to being kidnapped or worse if people can't identify you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on the Know Your Rights? All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging with us for so long. Really some great information that is being shared. And I hope that you really take in our last segment, with this a wellness check, because we know life be lifing, y'all, as y'all like to say, and there's a lot going on, but we have to make sure we take time for self-care. And we have the perfect person who's going to share with you this evening. Dr. Rashana Johnson Verwain, known as Dr. J, is a licensed clinical psychologist, burnout strategist, and author of several books, including Overwhelmed, the self-care guide for college students. While Dr. RJ primarily works with executives and organizations to address burnout and work-life imbalance, her work with students allows her to focus on prevention, teaching the next generation how to protect their peace before burnout begins. A featured panelist at the Congressional Black Caucus Annual Legislative Conference, Dr. RJ is passionate about helping high achievers navigate stress, success, and self-care with authenticity. In her upcoming segment for the Know Your Rights webinar, Dr. RJ will lead the wellness and grounding discussion, sharing strategies on how to protect your peace, set healthy boundaries, and practice ancestral resistance through rest, reflection, and community care, especially during times of uncertainty and change. Her message is simple but powerful. Success should never cost you your sanity. And I tell you, she is the real deal, y'all. She is my beautiful sorority sister who I am so excited to have with us this evening. Good evening, Dr. RJ.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. As everybody was shouting out their HBCUs, I have to shout out my HBCU, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. I am a very proud Aggie. My silver year is coming up. So shout out to all of the universities represented. I am a lover of HBCUs. My daughter is a high school senior. And so as you all were talking, I'm thinking she's going to be in your shoes next year. Aggie Pride, yes, Marie. She'll be in your shoes next year facing these same issues. So I'm already learning so much from you all, and it's a pleasure to be here. I know that I'm last. I actually prepared slides so that I wouldn't be so long-winded because I have so much to say, and hopefully I'll be invited back to pour into you all again because this is just such an important topic. So let me get to it to be respectful of your time. So protecting your peace in an ever-changing world. As stated, I do work with executives, but my love is with students, high achievers, and it's I would say my passion to allow you to learn to protect your peace and prevent burnout before you get to my age when it really becomes difficult to work on. So let's get going. Feel free to pop questions in the chat. I'll pause at the end to answer all questions, but pop them in throughout and then I'll come back to them, mainly because I can't see on my screen. Alrighty, so let's talk about my favorite, Audre Lorde, really quick. When we hear about self-care, often it's commercialized. We think about getting your nails done, spa day, bubble baths, going on vacation, that sort of thing. But that's not what self-care is about. Self-care was formed out of resistance. It was formed out of self-preservation. It was formed out of radical resistance. And so taking care of yourself is as political as you can get. And let me explain why. Let me explain why it's part of your power, because you cannot show up as the best version of yourself if you're exhausted, if you're tired, if you're lonely, if you haven't had food, if you haven't had support, if you haven't had any healing circles. All of those are necessary to show up as the best versions of yourself. I imagine right now you're experiencing feelings of stress and fear, even grief and anger and frustration and resentment and exhaustion. And so now more than ever, taking care of yourself is the answer. Like focusing on yourself, making sure that you are drinking water, sleeping 6 to 8 hours. I know college students, you may lean more towards the 6 hours, and that's fine, but getting sleep, prioritizing your rest, taking care of your diet, exercising, moving your body, paying attention to what you're consuming, scrubbing your social media, like be careful about what you're consuming every single day. Make sure that you're also limiting your social media because if we watch too much of this news, then it impacts our brains in negative ways. The cost of constant survival. I will say, over the past couple of years, I feel like we have been in a constant survival mode. And that has wreaked havoc across the board, all the way from your generation, college students, to my generation, Gen X, to my mother's generation, the baby boomers. Like, all of us are having a collective grief and a collective feeling of exhaustion. And so now more than ever, it's so important to understand what's happening so that we can strategize instead of just being reactive. So I'll tell you really quick, neuroscience is my background. And anytime I get to talk, I'm going to sneak in something about the brain. Somebody mentioned they were a psychology major during the introduction. So shout out to the psych majors out there. Yes, 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 we need you. Um, so in your brain, your limbic system, that's your survival part, the old school part of your brain, you'll hear your nervous system, that's where fight or flight is. If we are not careful in what we consume, what we're looking at, what we're listening to, then our brains will perceive that we are actually in a battle, in a war zone. And I don't mean like just an emotional battle, but literally in a battle, in a war zone. The way that social media is set up, the way that TV is set up, our brain cannot distinguish the difference between what's on the screen and what's in reality, because it looks real. Our brain is smart, but not that smart. It can't distinguish the difference. So be very careful about what you're taking in every single day. Chronic stress will rewire your brain, and not in a positive way. So it causes forgetfulness, it causes digestive system issues, it causes insomnia, it can trigger depression, anxiety, it can trigger autoimmune diseases and disorders. So taking care of yourself is survival, right? It's resistance. It's not being lazy. It's not being soft. It's not being pampered. It is a resistance that is required for us to keep this fight happening, because we can't give up. That's not an option. Self-preservation is probably the best word. So burnout prevention starts now. I talked a little bit earlier about executives coming to therapy after the crash. Make sure that you all are preventing it before. Use your campus resources, use your healing circles, use your groups, use your support systems, use your campus counselors for these feelings that are really complex. It can be frustrating. Your college years should be partying and hanging out and enjoying homecoming and doing all the things, when instead, in addition to that, you're having to face some really grown up issues that not all generations had to face. And so it's okay to not be okay. And I know we hear that a lot and we say that a lot, but it's okay to not be okay. Give yourself some grace. Some of the warning signs: you may have emotional exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion is just like, I just can't. I can't anymore. And for emotional exhaustion, you should just rest. You may have cynicism and detachment. I don't know why we're fighting. I don't know why we're doing all of this. I don't know why we're working on this, because nothing will ever change. Well, things will change. They will change. You have so much power, and you're not in this alone. You may see reduced performance. Don't forget why you're in college, right? The point is to graduate and to earn your degree so that you can have even more impact and be at these tables that are making the decisions. So really quick, the 3 R's of protection. If you want to just take a photo of the screen, let me move this over so you can see 3 R's of protection. Let's go into some strategies. First, you want to recognize what's going on. What are your early stress signals? You may have persistent headaches. You may have some irritability and mood shifts. You may go flat, like the I'm fine autopilot mode. How are you doing? Fine. So you're not processing your feelings. Be mindful of that. So recognize how you're feeling. Awareness is the first step. Next, you want to regulate. So you want to activate your nervous system toolkit. That way, you're telling your brain, yes, there is a challenge, but I am going to be okay. This is going to be okay. There is not an immediate danger right in front of me. So it's okay to relax so that I can problem solve. When your brain feels like there is an emerging problem or an immediate problem, then it shuts down the fancy part of your brain, which is the complex problem solving. So you have the old school part of your brain, that's fight or flight, is your nervous system, it's all the feelings. It tells you to run when you hear a loud noise. That's the old school part. The fancier part, your cortex, your frontal lobe, is where decisions are being made, and this is where the real work happens. Well, if your brain is focused just on survival, the fancier part of your brain, your cortex, your problem solving, your ability to strategize, your ability to rest and bounce back, all of that is shut off, right? And so when you regulate, then you allow your brain to use the more sophisticated part so that you can actually problem solve. Ways to activate your nervous system: deep breathing, there's box breathing, there's 4-7-8 breathing, there's just basic pause and breathe in and breathe out. Right. And you'll notice just the change in your shoulders and your body once you breathe. Often, when we're feeling afraid, angry, sad, we hold our breath on edge. We're holding our breath. You just want to remember the power of your breath. Next is movement and exercise. Move your body intentionally every single day. Journaling and expression. Talk to somebody, write about it, express yourself, do some adult coloring, some dancing, some movement with your body, expressive ways to get your nervous system back in a safe zone. Community connection, like this counts as community connection. Don't isolate. Once you isolate, it becomes a very dangerous place, and we want to make sure that you're not isolating. Join healing, this should say circles, but healing services or healing circles, so that you can remember you're not in this alone. And then the third R, reclaim. Reclaim your rest as resistance. Healing is your birthright, is your inheritance. You have a right to be healed. You have a right to experience peace. Reclaim your narrative. Who are you? Right? You know that you're already fearfully and individually and wonderfully made, and you have your own specific gifts that are just for you. Reclaim your personal narrative outside of what others may be saying, outside of what our nation may be facing right now. Reclaim who you are. And remember that success should never cost you your sanity. We have to stay sane, we have to stay well. One way to stay sane and stay well and make sure that uh, your success is not costing you your sanity is honoring your lineage. So protecting your mental health honors those who came before you, right? Protecting your mental health, staying strong as it relates to wellness honors those who came before you. You also can get community care. You'll ground yourself through various rituals and collective strength. And of course, ancestral resistance. Your peace is a form of revolutionary practice. I think about my own mother, um, how she is revolutionary in so many different ways, and growing up, what it meant for voting drives. And I remember she would get off work, and at the time, I know this is non-partisan. I'm speaking as an individual. At the time, she was campaigning for Michael Dukakis, and we used to have these styrofoam hats that we pass out to encourage our community to vote. And I just remember, like, it's a core memory of empowering our community. I grew up in Newport News, Virginia, and it was a very poor area, inner city, but voting was our power. So thinking about your own revolutionary practice and what it looks like for you, because it's going to be different for everybody. This is important. Take a screenshot of this. Affirmations for you. Racism tries to rewrite our worth, and we're not going for that, right? And so these are the affirmations. I'm going to read them out loud. I want you to join me silently or You can say them out loud, or you can say them in your mind, or you can do deep breathing as I say them and pour into you. These are affirmations that I think are super important as it relates to wellness. I am more than this moment. My excellence is not up for debate. I was created for a time such as this. I carry divine purpose in every space I enter. I am not alone. My rest is not negotiable. I carry the strength of those who came before me and the hope of those who will follow. I walk in power, peace, and purpose, fully equipped for what is ahead. And so we'll pause right there. I'll answer questions, and that's everything. So
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you, Dr. RJ. And yes, if folks want to request permission to speak or want to raise their hands or show some love in the chat, that was amazing. Any questions or comments?
I do have something free to give away. Let me share that really quick while we're looking for, where's my screen? Where's the QR code? This QR code right here, there are free resources, just self-care resources for you if you scan the QR code. Overwhelmed, the self-care guide for college students. Encourage your university to buy a whole bunch of them. North Carolina Central buys 250 copies from me every single year. Shout out to Central. Even though I'm an Aggie, they still, the university buys copies for their incoming freshmen. But encourage your universities to pour into you and pour into your student groups by purchasing copies of Overwhelm. Your schools can just go to my website, askdrrj.com. But for you, I have free resources here. You just scan the QR code, and there are various things that you can use to help you as it relates to wellness and self-care. So I'll leave that up while we address questions. Let's see if I can do that.
Sure.
Actually,
And
no, I don't think I can. Well, I will have to move you to another screen and listen. My daughter has to help me do that, and she, I don't know how to do that. So never mind.
no,
Let me,
that's fine. Go ahead
okay.
and share that screen again, Dr.
Okay.
RJ,
All right.
while we're waiting and talking.
Okay.
Just allow people a few more minutes to just take a screenshot of that,
Yeah,
because that is
absolutely.
amazing. Someone says, I find that many mental health professionals have a hard time addressing these things in an anti-capitalist, anti-colonial framework. Do you
Mm.
have anything to say about your personal approach?
Absolutely. I'm all for decolonizing therapy. It's therapy, the way that it was introduced is not the way that it needs to work. And so you will find tons and tons and tons of therapists and mental health clinicians who do not practice from a colonized framework. You can look at the Association of Black Psychologists. You'll find chapters in many of the cities. You can do an online search. If you're looking for your own therapist, you can go to Therapy for Black Girls. You can go to psychologytoday.com and specify what type of therapist you want. But it's now more than ever. And I know I keep saying that, but we're not. Listen, I've been a licensed clinical psychologist for 19 years or whatever. I mean, I'm not going to our first goal is to do no harm. And the way that traditional therapy, traditional mental health, traditional American Psychological Association psychology was presented does harm. And so I made a vow to do no harm, and every clinician, every psychologist, every licensed person has the charge and the duty to figure out what that means for them. But yes, that's a great point.
And someone else said, I will be using this self-care guide. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, use it and share it.
Any other comments or thoughts? Wow, I can't believe that you went through all that great information so quickly, but we appreciate it. Daniel, while Daniel's coming off mute, Dayton asks, I was a psychology major. What methods do you find are easiest to help spread these kinds of tips to college students?
Um, I go wherever your people are. Hang out. I hang out wherever your people are. So I work with executives. I hang out on LinkedIn and Instagram. If when you're on campus, you may want to ask to be on various panels of different organizations, even if you only get 5 minutes. And so go where your people are to spread the word because it's super, super important. And there should be a psychologist or mental health person in every single room. There's not a room that you don't belong in. You just have to make it happen.
Daniel.
Yeah, so I actually have a question for Mr. Hayes. If he can.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Right. So my question is if we're approached by police or law enforcement and they don't really have like a reasonable they don't have a reason why they say they stopped us, or they don't have a reason that they approached us necessarily, um can we refuse to comply, or would like what should we do in that circumstance?
The most important thing to do in that circumstance is to ask, are you being detained? If you are not being detained, you are free to leave at any point after that, and you should. If you are being detained, you are able to ask, why are you being detained? And they have to be able to articulate why they are detained.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any of our Fanon?
In the instance that like we know that occurs when they refuse to give a reason, because like when you challenge like people who are in positions of power like that, they tend to have like a childlike reaction or reaction like a dog has when you try and take a toy. They tend to, escalate um, for a question their authority. I think that's more of so like what the essence of his question was getting at. Do
Yeah, I
you
think
you
if,
got it?
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it. I'm good.
Yeah, I think in those situations, they probably will. And it's your job to try to remain calm and again survive. And so they might try to detain you and or temporarily arrest you, ask for your ID and things of that nature if they choose to escalate. Your job at that moment is to comply and, record whatever information necessary. If there are people passing by that you can ask to stop and record, you can also do that, right? But your job is to make sure that you can either go free or make it to the next stage of whatever the processing might be. They may just, put cuffs on you and release you. They may not. Does that answer the question?
Daniel?
Oh yeah, it answers the question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in line with that, I'm Dr. RJ. So let's say a student has been detained by the police or has witnessed ICE arresting someone or seeing these traumatic things, or even someone who lives or knows someone who lives in DC and has been undergoing the occupation. We're working with our partners both in DC and Memphis. Helicopters are overhead. Federal agents are out. It's not just ICE or the National Guard. It's also ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. It's DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration. It's the State Department. So once someone experiences seeing this, has been in that flight or fight mode, whether they have directly been impacted or witnessed it, what are some things that they can do after having that experience?
When there's exposure to trauma, I actually have a niece who's attending Howard right now, and we talk about this quite often. When there is exposure to trauma, the research says that the first thing you can do is seek support from your safe community. So it's actually not going to find a therapist, it's seeking support within your own community. So have your community on speed dial and be ready to talk about it. The quicker you can talk about it, the better. And it's tough. Like you may feel like I don't want to relive it, but your brain is going to relive it anyway. The quicker you put words to it, it brings it from this part of your brain, your limbic system, to this part of your brain. You can do something up here. If it stores back here, that's when it starts impacting your body, like the sleeplessness, the nightmares, the flashbacks. All of that happens in the reactive part of your brain. So as soon as you can, connect with your community and use word, put words to it and talk about your feelings. If it's happening on a daily basis, talk about it on a daily basis or journal about it on a daily basis. Once you put words to it, then it leaves the part of your brain that impacts your body.
Great, thank you. Well, we're still holding space for any questions or comments. I put in the chat, we'd love to host another webinar for our college students, so please let us know what issues that you'd like us to speak on next. But I certainly want to thank you so much, Dr. RJ. Thank you, Ralik. Thank you, everyone, all of our students, Ashley, Daniel, Eldrick, Barn, Sierra, Vanan, Dayton, all of you for sharing your thoughts, for being able to be open and honest. I think everyone took away something from each of the various segments that we discussed, and we're certainly appreciative of your time. I wanted to touch a little bit more on community. Not only your safe space community, but building community and networking is so important. Even on this call, it's being role modeled that we have NAACP Youth in College, Black Voters Matter, Take the Field, Black Youth Renaissance. We have a psychologist who's taken time out to be able to speak to you. We have someone who's an organizer and works for LDF. So building relationships provides access to resources and information that you may need. And so that's going to be really important to continue building community, be in community, because as Dr. RJ said, the worst thing you can do, and it's our instant mechanism, is to be isolated, to feel that we've been wronged or something has happened and we want to just hold it to ourselves. But the reality is the most freeing thing you can do is be in community, to share, because as Marianne Williamson said, that when you dare to share your light, you give permission for others to do the same. So when you can share your story and be vulnerable with others, you open up their opportunity to be vulnerable with you. Being in safe space is sacred to us right now, because we do, all of us feel collectively traumatized, whether we've seen it ourselves on the news. All of these things that are happening have been very negative. And so as Marie brought us out after that security segment, that we have to continue to stay connected to our Black joy, our Black power. As someone said, Black joy is revolutionary because they try to take it from us so many times. And so when we step into our Black joy, when we go to homecoming and we have boots on the grounds and we ask where them fans at, yes, it's in a very cultural space, but that speaks to our soul, that renews us and strengthens us and helps us to get to the next level. That even we don't understand what's happening or what the solutions are, we want to declare that we are in a Sankofa moment, an African and Dinkra symbol from Ghana that is a bird looking backwards. And it symbolizes going back to our ancestors, going back to that knowledge, going back and reading, Dr. King's messages, a letter from a Birmingham jail, or where do we go from here, chaos, our community. All those things, we have the blueprint. We've just got to access that information, that ancestral information, to help us in this moment right now. So we invite you to continue to be in community with us. We thank you for holding space for this call. It was a little bit longer than others, but you understood that it was important and necessary. So we want to thank you all for showing up, for sharing, and then going out and share the information as well. So I want to turn it back over to my co-presenter, Marie Radigan, who's been in the space for a long time. Thank you, Marie, for helping to put this together and bringing us here tonight.
Thank you, Alethea. It is a pleasure. I know that you all are ready to go eat dinner, so I won't hold you too long, but thank you all once again for joining us. All of the students who vocalize what has been happening on your campus. This is definitely the first call, but not the last call. We're definitely going to continue to have these calls as we keep us safe and looking forward in the future. What better time than now for us to get organized, for us to get active, for us to mobilize, strategize, and build community with each other. I have dropped our social media, in our Instagram link in the chat. Follow us on social media if you want to stay up to date with what we're doing. We have our membership campaign that is going on currently, as well as Vote Early Day. We have some plans and actions going on. If you want to come on the team and join with us with sending out text messages or phone banking, we would love for you to do that. There's just a lot going on. Don't feel like you have to be alone in this moment. Know that you have family, know that you have family, whether that's on your campus or in the community. So thank you all again. Follow us on social media. Vote Early Day is coming up, so we definitely want you to participate. I've also dropped that link in the chat as a open source, for us to do some good work. And I'll pass it back over to you.
Thanks so much. Exactly. And yes, as students using your power, which is voting, a lot of students don't think that voting pertains to them. They don't think that it's necessary, but we know better. And so our theme this year is We Fight Back. And so we want you to join us as we talk about community, not only these organizations, but those who are in Greekdom, Divine Nine, National NPHC, those of you who are part of other organizations, our political scientists, our psychologists, we need you. And so we ask that you continue to encourage students to get out there to register, to vote early, and regardless to know that November 4th is the elections and to get out there and vote. So thank you again. Have a wonderful evening. As we like to say, Black Voters Matters, 365, we fight back, can't stop, won't stop. Have a great evening, everyone.
Have a good evening, everybody.